everyone. Welcome back to the Living Generationally podcast. I'm your host, Brianna Laurie. And if you're new here and you have no idea what Living Generationally is about, you don't have to ask any more questions. I'm going to tell you. So, Living Generationally is where we get the opportunity to explore how our everyday choices ripple through our lives and the lives of those who come after us. This is where purpose begins, where gratitude grows, and where accountability leads to legacy. And in today's podcast episode, I'm just going to share a little bit about just some things in my life that the Lord has been pointing out and things that I'm growing in things that I'm learning to press forward in and to persevere. And so some things I'm going to talk about is the importance of renewing your mind and fighting back fear, pushing through hard days and having a spirit of humility and a desire to learn and getting rid of distractions, which I feel like the last one is definitely the one I've been struggling with the most and like wanting to grow in, because I'm realizing more and more and more how distracted I am and how I'm just allowing time to just go by and just wasting time. And it's like when I am like spending time on YouTube for a long period of time where I'm doing nothing and just kind of just constantly distracted, and then when I stop and I'm like, wow, like it's this late in the day, like where has all this time go? And it's like the sense of guilt, and it's like, man, I'm wasting time. And it's really convicting and something that I've known, and I feel like I've mentioned this in other podcast episodes as well too, but excuse me, it's something that I am actively working on and wanting to get better at, and just implementing different things. Like if I do want to watch a YouTube video, like I can watch it when I'm like washing dishes, or I can listen to it while I'm washing dishes or something like that. And I'm just learning how to when I remove something, I can add something else in its place. So all this time that I'm spending on YouTube, I can um, pour more pour more time into practicing music, my guitar, and growing in that skill. I can read, I can do some other things, I can go for walks, or I can just allow my brain to rest, because I'm learning that the more I get distracted and the more I'm spending time constantly watching YouTube or just being on technology, I'm learning that I'm not truly giving my brain the opportunity to rest. And I also feel like my soul is overwhelmed too, because I haven't given it the opportunity to decompress and to relax. And I experienced that like this morning. Um, I was reading my Bible, and I'm just like slowly reading through it, but also like I feel like the sense of like heaviness on my soul and exhaustion. Like I haven't allowed myself to truly relax and just breathe and take the time to not be so overstimulated, not have something constantly in my face or listening to something constantly. And it keeps you so distracted. Like the Lord could be wanting to speak to me through His Word, or and I'm just so distracted, and I'm seeing that more and more and more in my life. And I feel like that's something I'm constantly talking about in the different podcast episodes, because it's really something that like I want to get better at and want to grow in, and it's just so addictive. Like that's just the truth. Like being on the screen just so addictive. It's like, oh, what's the next thing? I want to listen to this. I want to listen to that. I want to listen to this. I want to listen to that. And there's nothing wrong in keeping up to date with things. I think it's important to know what's going on in the world, but I don't think I need to know every single detail and every single thing. So I'm learning like, oh, I don't know. I feel like that area is just, the Lord is still refining and growing me, and so I don't have a solution, like a perfect solution. I think sometimes it's like to just completely get rid of it, but it's like I also do enjoy keeping up to date somewhat with things happening in culture and in the world, because it's intriguing and it creates really good conversations to talk about what's going on in our world, and things are constantly changing, and just having that prepared mindset and wanting to use wisdom in how I live my day-to-day life, and also um, yeah, I think just keeping up to date helps me to be prepared and to see what what agenda is being pushed and how I can combat that in my own life, and having conversations with other people and family, friends, and community. So I think it's important in that way to keep up somewhat with what's going on, so we can be prepared, spiritually, physically, mentally, and in other areas of life too. But I'm still learning that balance. Or I feel like I'm starting to dislike the word balance because I feel like it's overused. But yeah, I'm finding my rhythm. Maybe that's a better. I'm finding rhythms and daily rhythms, and just figuring that stuff out. And yeah, if you have any um, advice, I would love to hear it in the comment section below of the YouTube channel. If you want to, yeah, if you have any advice you would like to share, I'm curious to know. How are you dealing with distraction? What are some things the Lord is growing you in? And how are you? What are some rhythms that you have into place to keep, like, if you are keeping up to date with the things that are going on in culture, and how you're doing that in your life and your family? I'm curious to know. Um, yeah, and I think also the Lord has been refining me and growing me, and renewing my mind. And I did, the more I like press into like changing different attitudes and mindsets, the more I realized how much in bondage I was, just mentally, and just the things that I was believing. And you really don't know until you actually start fighting and combating the lies, and combating the complacency, and combating the different heart attitudes that are not of the Lord. And I'm just realizing what, like, whoa, like, Lord, I need your grace, I need your mercy. Um, yeah, but I'm realizing how important it is to renew my mind on the Lord's word, and to have certain disciplines into place. Something I want to schedule in and be more consistent in is praying, and just having that time of prayer early in the morning with the Lord, and having that be something that I want to continue praying throughout my day. Like, prayer is having that conversation with the Lord, and talking to Him and listening to Him. And um, yeah, but I was on the phone yesterday talking to one of my dear friends, and she was challenging me. We both were challenged by this, but she kind of brought up that we don't pray enough. And in my head, like, anytime I hear like, oh, you don't do this enough, you don't do that enough, I just like, sometimes I think of list. I'm like, okay, what else is on the list? But I think the Lord quickly corrected me in that, and like, wait, no, Lord, prayer is so important, and it's something I always hear, like, oh, prayer is powerful, prayer is this, prayer is that. And honestly, like, I sometimes, like, I can be complacent in prayer, and I can be like, oh, is it actually that powerful? Is it actually this? Is it actually that? But the more that I do have that, the more I am disciplined in prayer and seeking the Lord, the more change I see in my life, and I see what the Lord is doing, and how He's growing me, and how He's stretching me. And He's always doing that. But it's like, when I actually am aware, and I come into I'm looking for the word. I guess awareness is what I'm looking for. When I'm aware of what He's doing and how He's stretching me, like, I'm able to praise, like, Lord, thank you so much for growing me. Thank you for stretching me. You're always working in my life. Thank you for your goodness. Thank you for the person of who you are, the person of Christ, that you're not just some random figure, but you are God. You are a person, and I can talk to you. I can pour out my heart to you. And it's just it's becoming more beautiful when I am able to connect to the person of Christ, and knowing that I'm not just talking to this random being in the sky, but I'm talking to an all-knowing and all-powerful God who can be known, and who wants us to know Him. And that becomes more intimate, because it's not just me trying to do, like, just doing something for the sake of doing something, but it's like, oh, like, um there is like something personal and something intimate, and it's not just like, yeah, yeah, I think, yeah, But I'm learning the importance of just fighting back the lies and fighting the fear. And I was also talking to my sister about this yesterday. Um, she was just sharing with me just some things that she wants to work on and grow in, and we just got to this the topic of just fighting back the lies that we're believing. And how easy it is to believe the lies, and she also talked about depression, and how depression, a lot of the battle was in your mind, and believing some of the lies. And I know, I'm not saying all depression is like that. I know sometimes there can be chemical imbalances in your body and hormonal hormonal things happening, and but I do believe a lot of it has to deal with the battleground of our mind and our hearts, and what we are believing. Are we believing the lies? Are we allowing the anxiety of the world to just fall on our shoulders, or the weight of the world to fall on our shoulders? Or are we giving that over to the Lord, and we're walking through our problems and through hard situations with the Lord, but knowing the truth of who He is, and that He is with us, and that He is good. And yeah, and also it's the Lord growing us as well too. I think also, like, when you're depressed and you're struggling and you're wrestling with different thoughts, I think also the challenge becomes when those things stay in your head, and there's no I don't want to say there's no, you are, there's a struggle, but I think when you actually um get up and start to fight, it is still hard, but there's an action, and there's a you're driving yourself forward even when you don't feel like it. And I feel like that helps a lot too, that as you push through the hard days, as you push and grow, maybe from traumatic experiences, or for something that's, or you're going through something that's hard. I think that that fight for life and that fight to move forward helps you not to stay stuck, but it drives you forward and propels you forward even when you don't feel like it. And um, yeah, that's just something I was thinking about, is that oftentimes when I don't feel like getting up, or I'm just feeling really, really down, I realize that, like, I realize the feeling, and I remind myself I can stay in this feeling, or I can get up and press forward and take one step at a time and celebrate that. And I think the mixture of taking actionable steps and having gratitude truly helps me, to not rely on those feelings when I feel the heaviness and weightiness of it, but when I acknowledge it and say, like, hey, we can either stay stuck in this, or we can get up and just take one step at a time, and to find things to be grateful for, and even being grateful for taking that step. It's like I'm learning the importance of having gratitude, and just being grateful for the things the Lord has given me, and especially when seasons are hard, and maybe it's dragging on long, or you're tired, or things are uncertain. I'm learning the importance of just having gratitude and stepping forth um, in that, and continuously praying, but also just um, yeah, living and adding things to my life that brings joy, true joy, and that is so life giving. Like playing music, I love music. I love singing. Adding more of that to my life. Reading, I love learning. Adding more of that to my life. People, I love being around godly people who love the Lord, and it's like adding more of that to my life. I love talking to my friends, adding more conversations to my life. I love getting up, having opportunities to serve other people, adding more of those things to my life, and removing those things that are keeping me in bondage and that aren't helping. For example, I'm not saying YouTube in of itself is bad, but there's so much going on, and so many different opinions, and so many different perspectives, and it's like it's not wrong to have conversations with people in person, and to discuss and have disagreements. But there's one thing where there's a constant um I don't know the word. I was gonna say inflection, but I don't know if that's the word I'm looking for. But this constant, like, overwhelmed of just what's going on. This happened, this happened, this happened. Someone has a perspective on that. And it's like that stuff just gets so overwhelming at times that it's like I'm like, okay, I need to dial this back, and kind of step back and realize that spending all this time on YouTube is truly not worth it, and it's not profitable to my soul. So it's like constantly going down that path isn't going to bring the fruit that I'm looking for. So the only logical choice to make is to dial it back so that I can be more present and aware of what the Lord is doing in my life, and to have more guidance and clarity on what to do as well too. And I think also when you're constantly distracted by something, you're missing out on what the Lord wants to do in your life, or and it keeps you stuck as well too. So and I'm seeing more and more people wanting to walk away from social media, because I think more people, including me, are recognizing that, like, wow, first, I'm wasting time. A lot of things on social media, it's like, it's not real. And I'm not saying everyone who posts on social media, it's not like, there, there's no validity in what they're posting. But a lot of it feels fake, and curated. And, yeah. So it's like, I want to live in the now. I want to live life. I want to be aware. I want to be present. I want my brain to function. Because that's something I also am realizing, is that when you're constantly overstimulated and you're constantly distracted, it's like your brain can't focus, and you don't have, like I mentioned earlier, the time to decompress and allow your soul to truly relax and to be renewed, and to be alone with the Lord, and to be with family, be with friends, be with your community, go out and go for a walk. It's like these things are so important to our humanity. We're not meant to be, we weren't created to just be stagnant and constantly be distracted and constantly being overstimulated and constantly having these dopamine hits and constantly just comparing ourselves. We weren't created to do that. And I think more people are seeing that as they are becoming more exhausted and overwhelmed when they're constantly interacting with social media or these different platforms that is truly profiting off of their attention. And yeah, it's like I'm learning that our attention is actually the number one profit making tool that companies are using to be profitable. And I want to take back my time, take back my attention, because it's so important. And the more these different things are happening in our world, and ever since Charlie Kirk's death and different stuff, it's like I'm just realizing more and more, like, how precious life is and how short it can be. And we don't know when our last day is. Like, Charlie didn't walk on UVU campus on September 10th and expect that that was going to be his last day here on Earth. And even that's just heartbreaking and sad. And I think the Lord is just refining me and having me realize, like, what is important in this life. And even, like, again, yesterday, my friend and I, we were on the phone just, like, talking about, like, the earthly versus heavenly, how much we should be involved here on earth. And like in the realm of, like, politics and stuff, we're kind of talking about that, and should Christians be involved in politics and stuff, and having different conversations about that stuff. And um I think the more that I live, the more I'm like, man, like, I want to have an eye towards heaven. Like, I want my heart to be heavenward, and my reminding myself that my citizenship is in heaven, but also reminding myself that what I do here on earth is so important. And I think sometimes, I don't know, I feel like I've been wrestling with this idea, because I believe there's some brothers and sisters in the Lord who forsake their earthly responsibility because they're citizens of heaven. And I don't think that's how we should picture things. I think we should be reminded that, like, what we do here, like, we should be reminded that heaven is important and that we are citizens of heaven. But that doesn't mean that what we do here on earth doesn't matter. That doesn't mean we can't fight for our country, our values, fight for the lost, fight for others, fight for those who can't fight for themselves, the homeless, um, those who are poor, and those who are in the womb, who are being aborted, being killed, murdered. And so I think there's a lot of wisdom in reminding ourselves that yes, we're citizens of heaven, but that doesn't mean we were forsake our earthly responsibility of how we're supposed to be representatives and ambassadors of Christ here on earth, and how we're supposed to go out in the public sphere, sharing the gospel, sharing the good news of Jesus. And that looks differently for each and every one of us, but I think it's important that we remind ourselves that, like, yes, this world isn't our home, but that doesn't mean that we forsake everything and we just go hide in we go hide and not care about what's going on. Yeah. So that's some things that, like, has been on my heart and mind, things I've been wrestling with, things that the Lord has been challenging me in and growing me in and stretching me in, conversations I've had with friends and family. And um yeah. And I think I'm going to stop the podcast episode here. And I want to challenge you to ask the hard questions. Where are areas where you're distracted, and how can you replace those things? How can you, like, the areas that you are distracted in, whether you're being distracted, um, whether the cause of your distraction is like constantly being on your phone, or constantly watching something, or constantly listening to something. My challenge to you is, how can you take back that time and replace it with something good? Maybe you can read a book, or just have a time when you're just sitting still and you're just before the presence of the Lord. And yeah. And I hope you enjoyed this podcast episode, and I'm excited to see you on the next one. And yeah, this is where purpose begins, where gratitude grows, and where accountability leads to legacy. Yeah, live with legacy leading to the future. Goodbye, friends. I realized I was yeah okay. I realized I was turning this way, and I should be facing this way. See, we're going to constantly get better at this, but yeah. Goodbye.